All right. We are back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. I'm your host, as usual, Mark Pierce. Hope you're doing well today. It is Thursday. We're getting there towards Friday, aren't we? It's been a good week already. Hope you enjoyed our topic so far this week. What are we talking about today? Well, we're going back 50 years ago this past week when this film was released. So 50 years ago, it's Gimmie Shelter, Story of the Rolling Stones, was released. This was a big deal, and this was a documentary that covered a concert that occurred exactly 1 year earlier, in 1969, the Altamont Speedway, where someone was tragically killed at this concert. I always thought this movie, I saw this movie a long time ago, but up until that point, I always thought it was a documentary about what happened after the fact. But when it is, in fact, a documentary that was being filmed while it happened, and it just so happened that this happened during the documentary filming. So we'll talk more about this, but let's back it up a little bit. The Stones are the biggest band in the world. 1968-69, they're touring. There are some complaints that their ticket prices are too high. So one of the things they decide to do is to put on a free concert at the very end to kind of make up for it. At first they were going to do something like San Jose State Field or something like that, but that kind of got nixed by the city. So then it kind of morphed into something like, let's do a West Coast Woodstock. Let's do a giant free show and let's add some more people. So they got Santana, Jefferson Airplane, Flying Burrito Brothers, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and the Grateful Dead. I mean, they were all going to do this huge free concert. That's a big deal, right? Then they tried to find a venue, and at first they were going to do Golden Gate Park. That made perfect sense, but there was a lot of tension between authorities and the Haight-Ashbury crowd, and they didn't really want to have that many people there, so those talks fell apart pretty quickly. Then they were going to do Sears Point, which is a raceway. That seemed like a good idea. That was perfect for the occasion. But they wanted somewhere between $100,000 and $300,000 from the Rolling Stones upfront money, which was a lot of money in 1969, right? So at the last minute, the owner of this Altamont Speedway came forward and said, "You guys can have it at my place." And so they went and surveyed it. It was okay, but it wasn't a great setup for this kind of thing. I mean, there were going to be 300,000 people at this, and it's the typical story. I mean, they just, some of the, like, not enough portalets, not enough medical tents, that kind of stuff. But the most important thing is that instead of being a slope up to a stage, and they had built the stage already, it was however high. Here at Altamont, there was a slope kind of down, and so the stage was already built, and its height was not high enough because of the slope down. So you had all these people the kind of sloping towards you, which is very intimidating. And because of the height of the stage, it was going to be very easy for people to either throw things or climb up or do whatever. And it was too late to build a higher stage. So that was the main concern with that situation. But they decided to go with it. And a lot of the documentary is about the negotiating and planning of this concert, where it's going to be, how it's going to work, and the security of the concert. So that's what you see a lot of in this documentary. In addition to that, there is documentary of like a Madison Square Garden, the first show of that tour, Ike and Tina Turner playing there for them opening up. There's footage of them recording a couple of songs at Muscle Shoals Recording Studios in Alabama, that famous recording studio space. They recorded Brown Sugar and Wild Horses there. So that stuff is kind of mixed into this movie as well. But the huge chunk of it is the negotiation for this concert. And someone comes up with the idea that the Hells Angels should be the ones that are there providing some security. Now there's tons and tons of material here, back and forth viewpoints. The Hells Angels say they were never contracted to be police or security. I mean, the footage of it has the guy saying, "We weren't hired to be police." What they said they were hired to do was to sit on the stage, drink beer, and just make sure that nobody got killed and nobody got rushed to the stage or anything, but not to be like, policing the area. And there's a lot of stories back and forth about the Hells Angels, and they're part of the that whether they were supposed to be doing what or whatever, but they got paid in $500 worth of beer, and they got to drink beer all day. So the concert goes on, and Grace Slick from Jefferson Airplane says that from the very beginning she just had a really bad vibe. Just something was off. The feeling wasn't like Woodstock. It was just something was just not feeling right the whole time that she was there. And during everyone's sets, there were times where there were fights and people fighting with each other in the crowd, Hells Angels fighting with people. She just, she'd have to stop and tell people to stop fighting, stop pushing, for people on both sides to stop doing whatever it was they were doing. And this progressed throughout the day. And the Stones were going to go on at sundown. And you can picture all this stuff happening. Basically, everyone's been drinking and doing drugs all day. The Hells Angels have been drinking all day. It just culminates in this thing. At some point, a motorcycle gets knocked over. Hells Angels motorcycle gets knocked over. That kind of fuels the tension. So there is a lot of tension going on there. There is footage of the Grateful Dead. They land and they're getting ready to go on stage. They come in a helicopter. They land. They hear that Marty Ballin of Jefferson Airplane has been punched by a Hells Angel and knocked out. So I guess he jumped down and to find out what was going on, and he got punched. So upon hearing that, they said, "We're not playing. We're leaving. We're getting out of here. It just doesn't feel right." So they get back on that helicopter and they get out of there. So the Grateful Dead did not play this concert. I'm sure that added to some tension in the crowd as well. So the Stones are on, they're playing, and this is all in documentary. They're playing their music, and you can, I don't know if it's, the documentary itself, but you can kind of just tell that it's just something's not quite right. And these filmmakers are filming everything as it happens. And as it goes, someone from the crowd tries to climb up on the stage, gets pushed down and gets hit. He kind of goes off and then comes back. He has his girlfriend with him, and he pulls out a gun. And one of the Hells Angels sees it, tackles him, pulls out his knife, stabs him, and kills him. This all happens while the Stones are singing, and Mick Jagger has already told the crowd to kind of settle down and to get control of themselves. And at some point, he's aware that somebody's hurt, because he stops and he says, "Hey, somebody's hurt out here." And he says, "We got to get someone out there. Is there a doctor here? Because someone's hurt." But they didn't know to the extent of how bad it was, and they resumed their playing of the show and the concert, which they got criticized for, but clearly they had no idea what had actually happened. The guy's name was Meredith. Meredith Hunter, and he died. So the documentary shows them back in New York a week later watching their own footage for the first time, and they're able to actually see one of the filmmakers got that part of it on film, which is in this film. And it's ultimately that footage that shows in court that the Hells Angel was acting in self-defense. So a lot of backlash here when this happened. I mean, it was backlash for the Rolling Stones. I mean, there was a lot of backlash for them having the audacity to have a free concert with so many people. They said it was irresponsible to have that many. It was irresponsible to have the Hells Angels, even though they had used them before. People said of the film that it didn't address that issue. It really made them look like they were in a better light. So there was a lot of tension as far as that's concerned. Even the filmmakers, they said, you guys were just filming this free concert so that the Stones could make money. So there was a lot of criticism all around. And of course, naturally, a lot of it went to the Hells Angels, who said, "We weren't police. We were just supposed to sit there and make sure stuff didn't happen." So there was a lot of that to go around. Later on, they would just call this show one of the worst days in rock and roll, a disaster. Basically, really just said this was kind of the end of a symbol of the end of that 60s culture. Even in American Pie, the song Don McLean's American Pie, there's a whole fifth verse is all references to this tragedy, and it kind of starts with Buddy Holly's death, and it kind of ends with that and the chunk of time in between. So that's kind of interesting too that I learned. One of the filmmakers at this concert was a very young George Lucas. He was filming. He doesn't get any credit for it because they didn't use any of his footage. He got about 100 feet of footage and then his camera jammed, so he couldn't film anymore. But he was there filming this. All right, so that's the story there as far as that's concerned. What are we doing for song of the day here, right? I thought about doing Sympathy for the Devil. Now, there was a rumor that that's what was playing when this happened, and that's not the case. That was the song before, and I think it was Brown Sugar or something that was playing when this all happened. But anyway. But the title track, Gimmie Shelter, I'm going to play that one just because Gimmie Shelter is probably one of my favorite songs. People ask me, Mark, what's your favorite song of all time? And I usually say that one. I usually say Gimmie Shelter is my favorite song. Surprisingly enough, it's not a Pink Floyd song. My favorite story about that song is that they were recording, and in the middle of the night they needed a background singer. So they woke up the background singer who was like 8 or 9 months pregnant, and she came down in the middle of the night with curlers in her hair and her housecoat on, and she nailed that in one take and then went home. So that whole thing with her singing is all one take in the middle of the night, pregnant. Pretty amazing, right? All right, so that's the story. We're moving along here time-wise, but that's the story of what happened at Altamont, the tragedy. And the song of the day is Gimmie Shelter. Have a great day. Tomorrow's Octane Friday. Looking forward to it. And as usual, I'll catch you on the flip side.